Well, welcome again to a Christian business podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron. Justin was not able to be with us today. So for the first
Yes.
time, we're on video and remote recording. So a lot of firsts today. We are here with Dena Patton. And Dena, we had connected through LinkedIn. And just a quick note about who Dena is. She's an inspirational speaker and she's a business coach and works really with guiding Christian leaders, and she runs a 501(c)(3) organization, the Girls Rule Foundation. And so we're going to hear some about that. She has co-created a Bible study series. And so we're going to kind of talk about a lot of those things with Dena. But first and foremost, we're going to jump right into her story, and I did not prepare devotion today, so please forgive me if that's your favorite part of the episode. You'll get over it. But hi, Dena. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you. I can't wait for this conversation.
Well, so let's do like we always do and just kind of start right at the beginning, whether that was church camp at age 5 or raised in a Christian home or big. So what did Dena look like before Christ, and walk us through what that transition looked like?
Okay, great. That looked like going to Catholic school, uh, 2nd through 8th grade, not having a great experience at all, both academically and religiously. It was rough for me, and it really turned me against God. Actually, my
Right.
8th grade year, I just said, I'm gonna throw the baby out with the bathwater and say no to this whole thing,
Right.
and, I didn't really know, at 14, you're trying to figure yourself out,
Right. Right.
and I just said, "This didn't work for me, and
Hmm.
God doesn't work for me, and I'm
Hmm.
done."
Right.
And, I ended up in a high school where there was Young Life, and a dear friend of mine, Megan, was very
Hmm.
involved there. And we were at lunch one day, and we were kind of talking in and around religion, and she clearly knew that I came from a Catholic school,
Okay.
and, but she was getting that it didn't stick, right? And she
Okay.
said something to me really important. She said, "It sounds like you believe in Jesus and you believe in the Bible, you just didn't like that denomination, right? That didn't
I see.
for you."
Okay.
And she said, you can be Christian and not Catholic."
But
And I literally, my head at
how dare
14,
she? How dare
right?
she? What
I know.
heresy?
I know. I said, I don't know if I knew that, you know?
Right.
And, she said, "You should come to this thing, called Young Life. It's really fun, but it's God-centered, but it doesn't really have a denomination." And that was
Right.
really the first entree into non-denomination Christian, and it just opened my eyes. I was like, "Wait a minute. I can believe in the Bible and Jesus and have a relationship, and I don't have to adhere to the rules of fill in the denomination, right?
Right.
Catholic,
Right.
Methodist, Baptist." And
Right.
I was like, "This is amazing."
Yes.
And,
Freedom. Freedom in
really,
Christ.
yeah, and my life changed. I mean, just absolutely gave me an identity, it gave me purpose, it gave me grounding, and I was
Mhm.
involved with Young Life for about 3 years, and then I was a counselor at the camp for 2 years, and then I moved to New York City. I moved myself. I had a dream, to move to New York City, and at
Where were you
21,
originally?
Phoenix,
You were in
Arizona.
Phoenix. Okay.
Yep,
And just a quick question here. So you mentioned so you were 14 when your friend kind of invited you, and
yep.
then you finished high school and then spent 3 years working with Young Life, or what did that time
Yeah,
frame
I
look like?
just, became a student of it and
Okay.
then was invited to work at the camp a
Okay.
couple years, and that
Okay.
kinda got me into, um, you know, co um, not coaching, but,
Mentorship.
mentorship,
Sure.
and which I just loved, and I
Sure.
really think it was the seed for the rest of my life, because the rest of my life, career-wise,
Mhm.
has been inside of mentorship,
Right.
training, development, coaching, things like that,
Sure.
and I think it
Sure.
was that seed that started that.
Okay. Got you. So, and a lot of that was really just core faith stuff. There wasn't a
Mhm.
particular direction to your coaching. It
Right.
was, yeah, it was students who had
Yeah.
been through what you'd been through. You know,
Yeah.
you're that kind of Catholic background and then meeting Jesus reminds me a lot of Lindsay Hager's story. We had Lindsay
Mhm.
Hager on the podcast and just kind of that rigid, strict,
Yeah.
and I think there's a place for rules. I think
Sure.
God gives place for us to set up
Yeah.
fences, right? To keep us from falling in the pit. But then we
Yeah.
start to build fences back farther and farther away from
Totally.
us so we don't
Yes.
even go near the fence.
Right.
And so at some point in building those fences, we talked a lot about that with Mose Yoder too in the Amish community. Um, it, as you move those fences back farther and farther, somewhere you lose the freedom that Christ has for you.
Right.
Yes, you're free from sin, but you're free to live.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that story resonates, I think, with a lot of people to understand that there is more to Jesus
Relationship.
than these rules, and more rules, as
Right.
Sally Lloyd Jones' book says.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You trade rules for relationship, and
mm,
that's the big piece is, and it wasn't necessarily all the rules. It just
right,
was to me, I was seeking and I didn't you don't have these words as a 13-year-old or 14-year-old, but I was seeking the relationship. I was seeking that closeness, and because of all the rules in
right,
place, I think
right,
that what just I was like, "This doesn't work," right?
right,
It's like
right.
being alone in any relationship, a best friend or a spouse,
Mhm.
where there's really not a relationship there, and but you feel alone in the relationship.
Right.
It doesn't work,
Right. Right.
right?
It's
A disconnect.
disconnected. It's going through the
Mhm.
motions. You know, I hear married couples sometimes talk about we weren't married, we were roommates,
Yes.
during a period of their life. And it's,
Yes.
we're doing life together, but that's all. There's no joy and intimacy or relationship that
Right, and
Tim.
connectedness, that's the key, is
Yes. Yes.
connectedness in whether it's between you and your spouse. Me and my spouse are actually leaving this weekend for our 18th anniversary wedding anniversary
Congratulations. 18
to
years.
yeah,
Fantastic.
to Italy, so we're excited, and it takes work, and it takes
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
connection takes work. So whether
Yes.
it's with your spouse or with Jesus, you can't just go, "Oh, I'm in a relationship," and hit default and it be
Right.
great. Connection is an intentional act. So, if you want a better relationship with your friends, your coworkers, your spouse, or Jesus, it's about connection and creating that time for connection, and that's what I was looking for at 14, but again, when you don't have the words, you can't formulate what you're looking for in words, right? And
Right.
it's sometimes it takes someone else to go, I think you're looking for this,"
Right.
And
Absolutely. That third person to look. And I think
yeah,
it's interesting that God continues to God, repeatedly referred to kind of that relational marriage, right? The church and the bride and all of that. And it's interesting that he didn't pick like a game to compare
yeah,
your faith
yeah,
walk with, where there are
yeah,
rules and you have to play by the rules and all that.
yeah,
He used a relationship. And so it's such a relational thing, which is outside of a lot of other faith pieces too.
yeah.
So you worked at the camp for a while and started to develop that kind of affinity for mentorship. And did you hit up college or?
I did, but I didn't, what actually came about was, I was working, myself through college, and
Mhm.
I moved up in this company into mentorship, into training, and my goal after, I was in film school, getting a degree
Film
in
school?
film,
Okay.
and, I was what my goal was after college, move to New York.
Mhm.
And midway through college, my job actually had a position in New York, and I applied for it and I got it. So at
Okay.
21, they said, "Hey, do you want this?" And my decision was take the job in New York,
Because that's
which
where I
is
wanted to go anyway.
right, or stay and finish. And those are the decisions that you have in life of like,
Mhm.
what this opportunity just came to me. So I
Mhm.
prayed about it, and it was one of those windows that opened for a minute, and you either take it or it's gonna shut,
Right, right.
and so I took it, and it created 9 years in New York City, and, the first thing I did when I was there, I knew no one.
Mhm.
I didn't have anywhere to live, and I didn't know
Right.
anyone. I had a job and God, and I
Alright.
said, "I'm gonna find a church,
There you go.
and
Let's start there.
let's start there," and I found the most alive, amazing church, actually in the middle of Times Square. It
Wow.
was like 2,000 people per Sunday. It was so
Okay.
amazing.
Mhm.
And it was me and God for 9 years, and he did amazing things through me, ups, lots of wins, lots of
Mhm.
growth, and
Mhm.
some terrible, terrible lows.
Sure. So
Um,
you that job you took was through kind of your film education, right?
it wasn't. It
What
wasn't.
was
It
the
was
field that
just
that was in?
no, it was in restaurants, opening restaurants, and that was just my
Okay.
job. That was my job, getting myself through college.
Okay.
So, it was what was really cool is it got me to New York, got me
I
settled, and
see.
after a year, I quit that and started my own business, and I've never
Okay.
worked for someone ever since.
Got you. So I'm gonna back up just a little bit. Talk to me about uh coming coming to faith in Christ and yes, this freedom that you experience. What wh- what tell me about that time where you did you connect with a local church? Were you living? Were you growing? Did you have people that stepped in to kind of support you? What were some of the big faith moments after, hey, yes, Jesus, I want a relationship with you. I'm not interested in all this rule following. What
Yeah.
did the next couple of years look like as your faith began to grow?
So, I think in those years, and it was the young years, it was the high school, college years, those years that I had my Young Life, community, which is so I think that's an amazing organization for
Sure,
youth. Um,
sure.
so I did have that. I did have my father was my big champion of faith, and
Okay.
he came to his faith later in life, and so, I did have him in a way, but he lived in a different state.
Okay.
So, it was very few
Hmm.
very few friends,
Hmm.
were Christian at the time,
Hmm.
and what I think that time was God's time to pour into me, to pull me in the direction he wanted me to go
Hmm.
instead of where all of my friends were going and
Mm,
my family was going. He's like, "Mm-mm, I got plans
that's
for you, and it's over
right
here."
elsewhere.
So, it was a really important time for me to, A, grow in my faith, but B, be listening and
Mm,
really understanding, I'm really big on knowing your gifts because God is
you are.
he planted so
Yes.
many gifts in us.
Oh my goodness. You don't get me
I
started here.
can
Oh my
I know,
goodness. People people
I
who
can
know me
spend
are going,
hours.
"Oh my goodness, she said the G word. Aaron's not going to be able to move on." People listening. So
It's my
um
word.
right, right.
Yeah, uh,
Um the
it's major.
did did you did your Catholic roots, did you ever find yourself leaning back into some pieces of that as now understanding freedom in Christ? Did you ever find yourself being like, hey, this was now that I see, kind of the core and the way it's supposed to be, like I had a friend who was Catholic and he left the Catholic Church, but he still prays through a rosary because it gives him just some discipline and some focus. Did you take any of
Oh,
those things from the Catholic Church that you lean back into on the other side of that kind of relationship concept?
I didn't.
You didn't. Oh,
I didn't.
wow.
Nope.
So much for that
I
question.
closed that door. No, I can respect it, and ironically, I married someone, who was also born and raised Catholic, and,
Mhm,
I think that was a comfort zone for him, so when we got
mhm.
married, he was like, "What? Wait, you don't go to mass? What is this?"
Right, right.
It's very odd. I remember the first time that I went to a Christian church, and when you're used to mass in a Catholic church, it's very different. And
Absolutely.
it can be intimidating, it can be
Sure.
weird,
Mhm.
so it was a little bit like that for him,
Uh-huh.
and, it took a little bit of us navigating and finding a church that he was that we're both comfortable in.
Uh-huh.
But back to that, the beginning years is it was about me walking in my faith, building that relationship, listening
Mhm.
and listening to my gifts. I was young and
Uh-huh.
alone in New
Uh-huh.
York, and literally it was me and God. And he kept
Right.
saying, "Trust me, trust me." And,
Yeah.
trust is, I think everybody has a little bit of shade of trust issues, whether you have a
Yep.
lot of trust issues or a little trust.
Yep.
It's like, "Wait a minute, trust me, trust me." And I really those 9 years in New York, was pivotal in my faith, in my development, in my marriage, who I am as a wife, as a
Mhm.
mother, as a leader today. I needed those 9 years to have the ups, have the downs, have the building my back to what you just said, like the faith practices.
Uh-huh.
What I started finding was, and you're right, whether it's the rosary or the, Catholic things, structures is what I call them that help you build your faith. For me, I had to learn what are those? How am I gonna pray? What are my structures for that connection? Because I very much realized connection is the key to that relationship. And as a busy young 20 something, I'm trying to build a business, I'm trying to
Mhm.
date, I'm trying to do all the things. And I realized, oh, I also need to carve out time every day for my connection with Jesus. And
Right.
that's where I really started to understand the, taking care of my mental state, my emotional state, and my spiritual state. It's a practice, and it's a
Mhm.
daily practice,
Right.
and it's something that unfortunately, something had to happen really negative because I thought I was, like, doing fine. I'm like, "Fine. I'm good. I'm
Mhm.
going to
Mhm.
church. I'm praying every once in a
Right.
while. I'm
Good.
good. Good."
Uh-huh.
Right? And then at 27, I had a minor stroke, and
Mm.
it put me on my knees.
Mm.
I had to learn how to speak again. I had to reinvent my
Really?
life. It was horrible.
Wow.
And
And
doing it alone. Again,
right.
you're youngish, you don't
Mhm.
have your family there.
Mhm.
And I had to figure out now this healthcare system,
Mhm.
recover
Mhm.
mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially. I had a
Right.
business with three employees,
Right.
and I had at the time, I had a marketing agency, and we were producing a monthly magazine. We were the only
Right.
magazine that covered all of the entertainment, so Broadway, off Broadway, singing, dancing, comedy. We were the
Okay.
only one that did that every month, so it was a huge output
Right.
and
Right.
expectation, right?
Oh my
And I'm
goodness,
like,
yes.
learning how to
And now
speak
you can't
again and
talk.
recover.
And now you can't talk.
Yeah.
Oh
It was
my
not pretty.
goodness. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. So
yeah,
so you, and I'm sure we're going to get to this in a little bit in terms of that's probably where some of that Bible study that you co-created there came out of some of your learning those habits. How did you how did you know? I mean, was it just naturally through church and church groups that you kind of learned how to really dig into relationship with Jesus? Because I mean, you're not praying the rosary anymore. You're not going through
right,
confirmation anymore. You're not.
yep.
Where did your kind of foundational understanding of how to relate to Jesus come from?
That's a good question because I think it can get very vague,
Right.
right? And
Spend time with
there's
Jesus. Well, what do you mean?
what is
Yeah.
that? Well, I definitely, church is for me what the biggest habit that started then was I am going to church every Sunday. That is a
Mm,
structure.
mhm,
I need that reset, that regrounding,
mhm,
that reconnection every week.
mhm.
And because we're flesh and we're doing our best and we make
Right.
mistakes and we have the ups and downs of the week, I have to have that reset and that reconnection every Sunday. But then I always use the analogy of if you went out in your backyard and you planted, say, a little lemon tree.
Mhm.
And this little lemon tree you got at Home Depot, in the nursery department, and you
Right.
plant your little tree and it's like 2 feet and you put the little water system, the little drip on it, and the little drip is dripping its water, right? Well, and the tree grows and grows. And now it's this huge lemon tree, but
Mhm.
the water cannot stay the same. That
Right.
little drip cannot sustain this big tree, right?
Mhm.
What I realized was, and this is so not talked about in society, but it is a belief that I have, is that when our spiritual self is broken or
Mhm.
fractured,
Mhm.
the rest of our life is,
Oh, very
right?
much so.
It's the thing that it
Very
creates
much so.
stability. I think people have money creates stability, or the home you live in creates stability.
My spouse
These
creates stability.
Yes,
Whenever idle, insert idle here,
idle,
right?
yeah, external thing, right? What creates stability is God. And what I realized is a little drip of water, a little drip of God on Sunday was not sustaining this life I was building. I was building a big business. I'm
Mhm.
becoming a speaker. I'm becoming a leader. I'm going to get married, have children, right? Like
Right.
we grow. We are this big tree and we have fruit, right? Well, we
Right.
can't have that little bit of
Drip.
God,
Right.
little drip that we had years ago.
Mhm.
So as we grow in our business as a leader, as a father, as a mother,
Mhm.
and we have all of these expectations and these things in our life, we need a lot more nourishment. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, I need Jesus every day. I need a
Exactly.
structure, and I'm a systems, one of the things I coach people in is systems and structures in their
Right.
business. And so I kind of think like that. And I thought, oh, you know what I need? I need a structure. I need a daily structure where
Mhm.
I'm getting more God, more God. It's like more
Mm.
cowbell, more
More
cowbell.
cowbell. I
Right?
love
More
it.
God,
More
more God,
cowbell. I got a fever, and the only
right?
prescription is
Yeah.
more system.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So
you
that's what I realized, and I was like, "I need more God every day," and, that once I created that structure, oh my gosh, I mean, everything, because now the tree is getting enough nourishment and it's not,
right.
like, dying on the vine,
Right,
right?
exactly, because it's overrun. Paul talks about like infants who crave spiritual milk, and we wanna move on to some meat, right? We say a lot of times, "We wanna move on to some spiritual meat." It's like, I think we can sit and you talk about, um, well, here we go, gifting, right? So you look at a lot of churches, and based on the gift sets of the leadership in the church, if you're not careful, you end up kind of top heavy or bottom heavy or side heavy or whatever. And maybe the guy's gifted in evangelism. And so you have this huge front door. People are just pouring in to hear the gospel, but then they all just stay there drinking milk
Right,
because you don't have maybe a good teacher or discipler that's going to take them deeper into,
right,
deeper things of faith. And
yes,
while it's wonderful to have more people in heaven with us, right? There's a lot that gets missed out on without that depth of faith and without, those roots, to take your analogy a little further, without those roots going further. And
right,
so that system puts more sprinkler heads or drip
yep,
lines around the tree for
yep,
God to be able to then pour more water into.
yeah,
And, you go back to the marriage illustration and say, if I were to, get married and then, check out and just, once a week, sit down
water
and have
drip,
dinner. Right, right. Sit once a week, sit down and have dinner with my
yep,
wife and just have this great emotional experience. And oh my goodness, the week without you. Oh, oh, I love you so much. And oh, oh, and here's some flowers. And that was it until the next week. Like my marriage would fall apart like in days
right,
because there's not this and 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 sometimes that's difficult. Like here, Redeemed Roofing and Exteriors, right? This is our busy season. We're in West Michigan. You can only roof, for the most part, you're limited as far as weather is concerned. And so it's a really busy time at 50, 60 hours a week. Well, if I don't
right,
intentionally have a system,
the tone,
Monday nights is daddy night with the boys, and
right,
Wednesday night is this, and Saturday afternoon is this. And so if I don't have a system in place, Does it mean I'm not gonna be able to relate well? No, but the system definitely helps
Yeah.
in terms of being able to relate with my family,
Yes.
and that same works if you just transfer that over into your relationship with God. It's like, if we like, it's stupid, we're like, "Well, that'd be stupid to sit down with your wife once a week, you're married." Yes, nobody would be like, "Well, you could do it." No, but when we
It
approach
doesn't work.
God, who himself compared it to marriage,
Yeah.
we're like, "Oh, yeah, that's fine." It's like there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
so you were in the restaurant industry and then you left that and started your own business. Um, what? You're 21, wait, 21 at the time?
Yeah. I was 21 when I moved to New York, 24 when I started my own business.
So you just like, "I'm tired of the restaurant thing. I'm gonna go paint." Like, what did you where did you go with that?
That's no, there was a little bit of a bridge there. Restaurant industry for 5 years, lots of training and development. I always became the trainer of the employees, and,
Okay.
yeah, so that's what got me into, again, that training and development. So I was in charge of training 300 of the front of the house, employees and opening
Right.
new restaurants. So the systems, structures, training, development, was planting that seed. And then I quit that, and really what I went back to as my gifting is storytelling, helping people get their story out in the world. I
Mhm.
do think our story is, that's the beautiful part of podcasting
Mhm.
is
Right, right.
stories, right? So I thought I'm gonna go work for a marketing agency because I think that marketing is telling people stories out in the
Right.
world. So
Sure.
PR marketing. So I bridged, at 22 and went and worked for them for 2 years in the entertainment industry. And what I saw was huge opportunity and huge amounts of clients that weren't being served.
Mm.
And one thing I have an eye for is opportunity. And I
Mhm.
just thought, uh, I'm jumping, and
Right, right,
I am not scared of risk,
right.
and I said, "You know what? I'm gonna go after these 3 people as my first clients," and, boom, got them.
'Cause
And I was
why
like,
not?
"Done, I'm going," and you have to trust God, you have to trust yourself. Those there it's not it's still scary moments, but you step into your courage
Mhm.
and listen to your greatness instead of that smallness that is just fear and doubt.
Right.
And I said, "Yes, I'm going." And, so it began that PR and marketing agency that
Okay.
then, what happened there, the biggest entrepreneur mistake I made
Mhm. Boom.
was
Ooh, gold. Write this down for us. Here we go.
once I jumped in to my own business, I drank the entrepreneur Kool-Aid that said 24/7 hustle.
Oh, yeah.
It's the worst Kool-Aid you can drink. It's such a lie and it's such an illusion, and that you can't be a success and you can't get to your finish line unless you kill yourself to do it. And I drank that, Kool-Aid, and 3 years later, I had the minor stroke. And a
Why
few
why do you think people why do you think people think that? Like, what would cause somebody to be like, "Oh, I'm gonna bury myself in this for
Yeah.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the next 5 years, and then I'll be done." Why do you think people do that?
I think they do it because they see everyone else. It's a little bit of keep up with the Joneses. It's
Okay.
in your personal, but also in our career. It's like if I'm a guy and my 2 friends just got a promotion, I'm gonna be like, I need to get my next promotion, right? There's
Mhm.
something about comparison for the good and comparison for the bad.
Right.
And I think in the entrepreneur world, I think we see other people hustling. It's like, "Oh, I'm in the wrong race. I need to be in that race and just
Okay, and we
hustle
jump ship.
more." Right?
Right.
Yeah, and they
Well,
jump onto that ship.
I wonder if it's not, you know, back in my Amway days, we had a guy that used to talk about microwave mentality.
Mm,
And he was kind of one of the he was the age where he transitioned as a early teenager. from no microwave to microwave. And you used to,
Yes.
if you wanted something, you had to boil water and you had to wait 15 minutes. Like 15 minutes, really? Are you really freaking out about fish? But then when you get a microwave, now you have something in a minute and a half. And so now you're no longer satisfied with waiting. And so you
Mhm.
want, my father-in-law says anything worth doing is worth doing now. Or no,
Yes.
worth doing fast. Anything worth doing is worth doing fast. And he doesn't live by that per se, and I don't want to paint him in a bad light, but ultimately we have this, I think this microwave mentality where,
Yeah.
okay, I want to be financially independent and that's going to take this level of income or this amount of debt being, Dave Ramsey talks about gazelle intensity,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
can't, I, I have this pain of can't pay my bills, don't enjoy my job, whatever.
Big debt. Yeah.
And I can't wait to get that stopped. So the harder I work, the faster I work.
The
And
faster I'll get there.
the faster everything. And in some cases, getting out of debt,
Right.
hey, there's something to that.
Yep.
Now,
Right.
but then you lose sight of God's provision.
Yep.
You lose sight of what else God has for you. Because if all you're doing is focusing, laser focused on this one thing, paying off debt or reaching that residual income level,
Right.
once well, during that time period, what if God puts somebody in front of you that needs to hear the gospel or
Right.
needs to be ministered to? I went to look at a roof I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and I got there, and I might have told this story already on the podcast last time, but I got there, and the woman came out of the house, and she had tears in her eyes, and I was like, "Oh goodness, what am I walking into?" And, if I had been trying to, sell the roof and get the next deal, I had another appointment to get to, but I found out that she had just received a phone call that her stepdad had died. And
Mm.
so, you know, praise God that he prompted me with the Holy Spirit for prayer. And I went, I prayed with them, just in this tough time.
Right.
But if I had been so laser focused in
Yeah.
gazelle intensity, and I have been that way before, and it
Right.
pains me to think what
What did I
opportunities did I
miss?
miss
Yeah.
because I was so laser focused. So
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I think that needs to be said. What you said
Yeah.
of we drank the Kool-Aid, we bought into the lie that, you have to hustle that hard.
Yeah.
So you did that and God kind of said, no, that's not what I want for you. And and you maybe didn't listen, and so he told you harder.
Yeah. I call it my blessed interruption.
Oh,
What I've
nice.
learned yeah, what I've learned about hard things, there's no, lack of hard things. Storms without God will break you, and storms with God will build you. And
Right.
I just believe that when God is in the middle of your storm, there is gonna be a lesson. There's gonna be gold there. There is going to be something amazing there for you. And I have had a lot of storms, but there's always amazing blessings out of it. And my stroke, I do call my blessed interruption. And it was a moment of my time of my life where I had to take inventory of who I was being, how I was leading, what I was doing, and what specifically I was doing with my gifts. The
Mm,
biggest lesson that I learned in that time was I kept hearing him say, "You are using your gifts in the wrong ways. I have
okay.
such other plans for you." So, out of complete obedience and just really faith, I really realized I need to get out of this business. But I was 27, going on 28. I'd never sold a business before. I didn't even have a ton of revenue. I had
Mhm,
systems. I had 3
mhm,
employees. We
mhm.
were the magazine division was known because we were the only magazine doing what we were doing. But it wasn't like, "Oh, this is a well-established millions of dollars of
Right,
revenue."
right.
I was thinking, "Well, I guess I'll just close and listen to God in this new direction." And
Can
by
I
the grace of
question on
yeah.
that one. Um, was where, you talk about Broadway and entertainment and New York City, and do you feel like any of the clients you had or any of the things you were promoting, um, were, um, less than godly? You like, were you in, was it like
Right.
Sin City or was it like
Oh, yeah, no. No, it was comedy and dance. These were artists and singers and dancers and, off Broadway, off Broadway. These were people who were trying to make it as
Mhm,
actors,
mhm,
producers, theater,
uh-huh,
and the disconnect was talk about connection, disconnection is tourists. If you've ever gone to New York, there's millions of tourists every year.
mhm,
And at the time, all they really knew about was Broadway. There was nothing else about other shows. If you heard about this side show or this comedy or this dance show or whatever, you kinda knew about the Rockettes and you knew about Broadway. And I just thought, "Oh my gosh, all these underdogs, all these hundreds of
sure,
actors and producers and
that are
shows
trying.
that need someone to believe in them."
Mhm,
I love underdogs and lifting them and spotlighting them. And again, the storytelling of that.
mm,
And I thought I felt like I did a lot of good. And the good about that all is in the confusion of what should I do next? I got a knock on the door and these 2 guys said, "Hey, we've been watching your magazine and there's this thing coming. It's called the internet." I'm dating myself. And we want to buy your magazine and we want to make it a website and we want to go global with it. And I thought, oh my gosh. I mean,
What?
yeah, what? Shock, disbelief.
That's
And
the
I
brie,
thought,
brie, brie.
yeah, what do you do in that moment? You say, let me think about it.
Mhm,
And I thought about it, I prayed about it, and I came back to them and I said, "You take the whole business, me and the 3 employees, or no deal." And this was my transition because I wasn't fully recovered yet. I wasn't ready.
okay,
I mean, if I stopped my business right then, I had no paycheck, I had no revenue,
uh-huh,
and I would put
right,
my 3 people out of business, right? Out of their paycheck. So for me, it was this could be a beautiful bridge of helping me recover and give me a little bit of time about what's next for me because I
uh-huh,
really did not know at the time.
mhm,
And so, long story short, it was a beautiful thing. I sold the business to them. They created a website, and 20 years later, it is a global success and
uh-huh,
covers all of theater in 10
sure,
different markets around the world.
wow, okay,
So, God will take your teeny little idea and make it grand. And sometimes, I was with them only a year and
uh-huh,
we saturated LA and New York with this, and then they took it global and has sustained it, and it's amazing. And
mhm,
what I learned is sometimes your gifts are used for a minute. Like I wasn't meant to stay on that for 20 years. I
right,
started it and then someone else nurtured it,
mhm.
right? And that's okay. And I think it was important for me to hear, okay, bless that, release that. I'm going to use your gifts now over here. And
I think, and
it was a
Dina,
new
that, I think there's a lot of people out there, like I was working for a company and I had said at one point to somebody in passing, I'm more of a starter. I'm not so much a finisher. And later, I had applied for a position, a hybrid, like to move up in the company, and interviewed, and they came back, and but one of their feedback things was like, I remembered when you were said you were a starter, not a finisher. And I remember looking at
Mm,
that as so much of a um like a fault. Like,
mm.
oh man, I gotta learn to. And it's you're just blowing my mind here because I have I was this many years old when I came to the possibility of, hey, maybe
It's a
that is
gift.
is a gift. And so I sit here with this roofing company and I go, okay, we grew the roofing company, and I get bored really easily. But the possibility that God created me that way with a purpose similar to that. No, don't
Yes.
worry. I mean, unless you want to pay me millions and millions, my roofing company is not for sale right now, but
Hoping one
but
day.
maybe it'll, well, there's everything's for sale. Well, most things are for sale at some point for the right price. But that concept of, the things that, yeah, because I remember Tim Kimmel, he does parenting, grace-based parenting, and we were at a conference, Tim Kimmel, and he had said, a lot of people look at quotes disabilities, ADD, right? Well, he said, you know what ADD people do really, really well? He said they make great fighter pilots because you have to be able to switch your
Oh,
attention
wait.
immediately.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a guy over here shooting at me. You
Right.
need to be able to break focus from whatever you're doing to
Yep.
address that situation. He said, so many times we look at faults and disabilities and drawbacks the wrong way. And that could be a blessing because he's
Yep.
right. Yeah. That would be a great gift. It would be a
Yep.
great gift to have ADD as a fighter pilot. So,
Right?
no,
Oh, it's
not that you would make
so
it through school, but to get there, but
well, and that is you listen, there's a pro and a con to everything, right? I
great,
mean,
sure.
every gift it does have a con, right? But
Mhm,
I think that when you see yourself how God sees you,
mm,
and he's sitting there going, "I put these gifts in you. Why are you damning them? Why are you shaming them? Why are
mhm,
you
mhm,
hiding them?"
mhm,
That is I call it the 3 Gs, and I write about this in my book. Um, your God, your greatness, and your gifts. Those
mhm,
3 things, no one can take away from you, but
mm,
it takes you owning them.
mhm,
Owning them. And
right,
when you do that, instead of hiding them or pretending or suppressing them or whatever, owning them and pulling them forward, like the
mhm,
forward focus,
mhm,
they change your life. Greatness mindset, gifts, you have so many gifts, but we don't call a lot of our gifts gifts. We sometimes call our gifts a burden
or a
or
fault
this
or a
this thing or this
disability.
quirk. Oh, I'm quirky
Mhm,
like this. It's like, no, 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 that's not quirky. That's your gift. Right. So
mhm,
it's game changing. And one of the gifts that well, you just talked about changing focus. I need variety. I definitely know that about me. And as a coach, I have a coaching and consulting company, and people think, "Oh god, that's kind of boring. You're consulting small businesses all day." But here's the thing, I have 19 clients in 6 different time zones that are all different businesses. So it is so exciting to go from call to call to call because every call is so different.
mm,
One, one's in London with 50 employees and they're doing these cool
mhm,
things. And one's in Kansas with 30 employees doing these
mhm,
cool things. And I'm a part of all of those teams.
mm,
And it gives me variety. It gives me adventure. It gives me all the things that part of my personality needs, right?
mm,
But because I coach in systems structure, I coach in systems and structures, sales and mindset.
mm,
And so every client needs some of that or all of that or one of
mhm,
those, right? So you can find, when you know something about yourself, like I need variety,
mm,
then that variety doesn't look like in my job, it looks like in my clients. So I get that variety satiated,
right, right,
it's why I've been doing it 22 years, and
right.
I love it. I love
Mm.
it, right? But
So,
also
go ahead.
another gift, here's
Mm,
one thing that, you mentioned a little earlier. One of the gifts I didn't see as a gift, and it was someone else. Sometimes someone else has to say that about you, right?
yep.
Yeah, about 6 years ago, someone mentioned how I create communities. And they're like, "Oh gosh, Dina, you are so gifted in creating communities." Never did I see that as a gift. Then I looked back on my past and I had all of these projects and businesses where I created community. And
Mm,
sometimes it's 500 people. Sometimes it was 2,000 people. One of the projects was 500,000 people.
Mhm.
And I was like, huh, I never saw that as a gift.
Mhm.
And I had to see that as a gift
Mhm.
before God called me to writing the Bible studies that I wrote.
Mhm.
He could not give that assignment to me
Until you
until
saw.
I realized that one of my gifts was community building, because this Bible study is based in community building. So
Right.
sometimes just know that God knows your gifts, but
Mhm.
you got to know your gifts because your next assignment depends on it.
Right.
Sometimes,
Right,
sometimes
sure,
not, but
sure,
I'm just
exactly.
saying sometimes it does.
Mhm.
So that was a big realization for me.
There's somebody to be able to, and this this person, kind of sidetrack here, but this person who shared that with you, is that a person who you had been in a relationship for quite some time, or is that kind of a new person you ran into?
No, only a few years, but they knew kind of my story,
Mhm.
the couple communities I built in New York, and then the 2 communities I built once I moved back to Phoenix.
Mhm.
And they just I think in that moment, they were connecting that they're like, "You did this and this, and now you did this and this," and they're all communi like, "You know that you do this really well, like, this is a gift.
Have
This
you
is a gift of
seen
yours."
how point A goes to
So,
point B
yeah,
with you constantly?
yeah.
Yes.
So they were kind of adding that up, and I was like, "Huh,
How does that,
it
right.
is."
Yeah.
Totally, and once I embraced it, oh my gosh, not only did God say, "Okay, I want you to write I want you to do community building around the kingdom." And
Mhm.
it started with that. It was just this little seed that he planted about 6 years ago. And then it built, and then it
Mhm.
built, and it got clearer and clearer and clearer. And 2 years ago, it finally came into fruition that it looks like a living room circle, Bible study called Happy Hour with
Mhm.
Jesus.
Mhm.
And but I it took a little bit to get that clarity, and then
Sure,
I
right.
got the clarity, and then I
Mhm.
started writing it, and it's launching this fall, and it is totally based in the assignment God gave me, the gifts that God gave me, and
Right.
it's all about helping so much full circle in this conversation. It's all about helping people reconnect to God.
Right.
8 minutes a day, which equals the hour. So
Okay,
the
got you.
right. So it's 8 minutes a day Bible study. You can do alone or you could do it with friends in your living room. Create a little living room circle is what I call it.
Right.
And the happiest hour of your week is with Jesus, and it's 8 minutes a day equals that hour.
Okay.
Goes back to the lesson that I had to learn, that you need Jesus every day. It doesn't have to look like 2 hours or 30
Right.
minutes. It can look like 8 minutes a day, and your
Mhm.
life will totally change.
Oh, absolutely. I can look at the times in my life where I felt the most useful in God's service, um the strongest against sin in my life, right? The strongest against temptation. That I had the most opportunities to present the gospel and people responding to that,
Yeah.
it were the times where I was more intentional with
Yep.
the small moments with God
Mm.
of, lately it's been the verse of the day. When I wake up in the morning, our U Version Bible app puts out a verse of the day. And, lately that's just kind of been my thing, to just kind of meditate on that and pray through that. And, my time with God shifts. Sometimes I get into a season of, I go through seasons. Sometimes I get into a season of, you know, talking through things, wrestling through things with other good men of God that,
Yeah.
hold me accountable and challenge me. And we dig in through that. Sometimes it's through my preaching and studying, preparing for the next sermon. And so, you know, in all of those ways, but the times where I feel most effective and most blessed and most fulfilled are those times when it is the simple drip, right?
Mm.
Again, full circle, the simple drips, um, that are then backed up by the bigger, you know, rainstorms of
Mhm.
yeah, jumping into connecting at church
Yep.
and, all of these kinds of things,
Yeah.
doing a Christian podcast and talking with Christian business owners, all that kind of
Right.
stuff. Um, and so I totally hear that. Talk to me, give you a chance here to kind of talk about that Bible study a little bit. And you have done some. What's the name of that Bible study is
Happy hour with Jesus.
Happy
Dot
Hour with Jesus.
.net is our
.net.
website.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll get some of these details to put in the episode description. So if you're like, hey, that sounds like something that might bless me,
Yeah.
check out the episode description and it will have that link in there. And then, so so like 6 years ago, you got into kind of that shift and creating that community and it came into, so let me back up. You kind of sold the marketing agency
Yep.
that blew up and like in a good way blew up and
Yep.
went global. You left after a year and
Yep.
twiddled your thumbs or what happened
No,
next?
started this business, Dena Patton Coaching and Training, and
Okay.
I coach small business owners and, help them be the help small business owners become great leaders who are building great companies.
Got
And,
it.
and so I have been coaching small business owners for 22 years. That is
Mhm.
my
That's
company,
your
my
where you're
blessing,
at.
my
Mhm.
revenue, and my main business. And then 6 years ago is when God said, I want you to do something for the kingdom, and started this
Got
kind
you.
of
Okay.
journey of the Bible study. But also he put something on my heart that many years ago around girls, and you
Mhm.
mentioned it in my bio. A few of my friends and I looked around at the state of girls,
Mhm.
tween and teen girls, middle school and high school girls,
Oh, goodness,
and it
yes.
is the it is hard to be it's hard being a kid, these
Right.
days, right? But, what we see is that girls needed a lot more intentional training and development
Yes.
around self-esteem, financial literacy, like, really being empowered around earning
Mhm.
money, saving money, budgeting money, managing money,
Mhm.
and asking for money. And then third is leadership. We have 12
Mhm.
leadership principles. So we started the Girls Rule Foundation and its empowerment and leadership programs for teen girls and helping them navigate being a teen
Mhm.
and becoming a leader. So we want to
Mhm.
get them through high school into college and become leaders of the next generation. But you
Okay.
have to put tools on your tool belt to do that.
Mhm.
And we saw a huge missing opportunity in that age range, specifically for girls.
Mhm.
And especially for girls who, you get a little bit of that if you're in sports. Um,
Sure, right.
but again, intentional training and development. So we have a nationwide after school club for middle school and high school girls.
Really?
Anybody,
Okay.
yeah, called Dream Lab. Anybody can start it in their school. And then we have a summer camp happening. That happens every summer here in Arizona, and girls fly around the country to come to that. So,
Do
yeah.
those and those ones that like after school programs, those are faith-based?
They are not
They are
faith-based
not faith-based, okay.
because we couldn't have
Because you wanted
that.
to get into the school.
Yeah, if
I
we
got you. I
yeah.
got you.
So we do a lot of speaking in schools, also, and, to have our after-school club and be speak you can't be faith-based. So we
Right. So
decided
do
not.
you have the people that are running these things, do they get that connotation and most of them are people of faith, or are you getting a pretty big mix?
Our after school club, we have teachers, parents, principals, and schools buying
Mhm.
that leader kit and starting
Mhm.
those in their schools.
Mhm.
They are all the thread that we see is the people who buy that after school club have a passion to make a difference for girls. They
Mm.
know that 7th, 8th, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th grade girls are navigating really hard decisions. And now they have phone addictions and social media addictions, and they are comparing themselves. It's hard like we were saying, as entrepreneurs, as adults, we compare ourselves all the time to people,
Yep.
but we have discernment and we have a fully uh, grown brain
Right.
to navigate that. At
Mhm.
14 and 16, You don't have that. You just have, "Oh gosh, she is skinnier than me or prettier than me, or she has these brands, or she has this and I don't, and I suck." And
Mhm.
these this self-esteem and the suicide rate, the dropout,
Teen
the
pregnancy,
drugs,
the
the teen pregnant, they start coping with sex, they start
Mhm.
coping with drugs, alcohol.
Mhm.
So, it is only getting worse, not better.
Well,
So
and you look at fatherless homes and what that
yep.
means for a mom trying to
Mhm.
now mom can't be a
Struggling.
full mom
Yep,
to her daughter, and so she's trying to learn what it means to be a woman, and
yep,
now just all of this, and now a guy shows up who fills that daddy role, and now all of a sudden she's pregnant. It just
yep,
absolutely. So there, yeah, I mean we have a youth crisis. A buddy and I
we
from church
do.
were talking about this just
Mhm.
this morning. We have a youth crisis.
Yes.
And, so but you're able to get into the schools. And so based on what you're talking about, I'm sure that there's a high percentage of people who are Christians who are participating
Mhm, mhm.
in that organization.
Yep.
Uh, and so again, we'll have, information on that. So that system is a school can kind of purchase kind of a program,
Mhm.
and then do like you train their leaders and then you start this what
Yeah,
give me the 2-minute version of what that looks like if a school would want to do that kind of
yeah.
program.
I'll give you the 1-minute version.
Oh, okay. Hey, I like that.
Go to girlsrural, foundation.org and click on Dream Lab, after school program, and you'll learn all about the the principles and what we do in that program, the outcomes. You buy the leader kit for $269, either a middle school leader kit or high school. You need an adult sponsor, so you're a parent or you're a teacher or principal. You need an adult sponsor that is going to go to all 13 of their meetings with them. And then you promote it to the girls. You get your group of girls. Some groups are small, like 8 to 10, some are bigger, 20 to 30. And
Mhm,
it's an after school club, just like everybody else. And it is based in our 12 leadership principles. I speak around the country to a lot of churches and a lot of
mhm,
faith-based people.
mhm.
And and they get active. They're like, "Oh, I want to start one is
Right, right,
in my
right.
daughter's school," right? So
Mhm,
a parent can be it, or a teacher or a principal.
mhm,
Um, and here's the beautiful part. There is no training. Everything is done for you. You literally we give you the slide deck and
mhm,
the directions. You and 2 girls, you choose 2 girls to be the leaders of the club, and between you, the adult sponsor, and your 2 girls, all you do is read. You have 13 meetings, there's 13, modules. Everything is made for you. All you have to do is read through it. They, work on their dreams. They learn 12 leadership principles, and they do a community project, a community service
mm.
project all together,
Oh,
which is
wow.
life-changing.
Sure.
So, all of it is in there. They can literally download it on our website, and start their club a few days later.
Got
You could
you.
do it
So
over summer
they
or
become
during the year.
they become a facilitator then.
Yep,
So you
they
just become
facilitate it.
and so they purchase this program and they purchase it one time
Yep,
and that yeah, wow.
yep.
Yeah, we'll put that in the description for any of you who are interested in
We
that.
wanted it to be very easy, no barrier. It is
Right.
our We created it because for 10 years, all of our programs were live. You had to be in the room, workshop
Right, right.
style. And what we realized is we had all these schools and parents and aunts
Mhm.
and grandmas calling, going, "I heard about this program. Can
I
I
want it
have
at
it
my
in
school.
Wichita, in
Mhm,
Miami, in New York?"
mhm.
And we're like, "No, come
We're
to
not coming that
Arizona."
far.
So it took us about a year to put the curriculum in a kit, get it simple, and for them to facilitate. And now, schools across the and churches, groups, community centers, teams, and schools buy it. You don't have to be a school, you can
Right.
be anybody, and you
So
have a group of girls.
somebody knocked on your door and said, "Hey, there's this thing called the internet," and
Yep,
again.
yep,
So I want to, yeah, we'll definitely get the information on that in the description.
okay,
I want to back up to your coaching business, and I want to talk to you about because gifting is your really big, a really big thing for you. We got a lot of young business owners, young, the business is young, uh, but newer business owners listening and trying to figure things out. And I was just talking to a guy this morning, who was actually one of the guys as inspiration for the podcast. But I was just talking to him this morning about, where he feels his biggest gifting is. And he's a contractor, and he's kind of like, I'm really good with a hammer in my hand. Well, running a business, you know, operating on that gifting principle, w- where do you typically lean that if a person's gifting is not running a business? Just in
Mm,
from a general standpoint. I mean, obviously everything's different, but where do you go with that if a person's gift is not running a business,
yeah.
but they are?
But they are. Funny you say that. I have a couple clients that,
Okay.
here's the thing, we're so brilliant at the thing that we do, right? You
Mhm.
might be, building
A
roofs, you
carpenter.
might be a
Right, right.
consultant, you might be right, anything. Um, w that thing is your brilliant lane. Usually running a business is not. I have
It's its
seen
own gift.
yeah, it is its own gift. Here's the thing is that is the power of systems. Is
Mm,
a system can solve a lot of problems. Admin systems, a lot of people fail at managing their admin pieces.
mhm,
It's so detail oriented and it's not fun. It's, all the things that they're not. And so they avoid it or don't do it well. And then they're late for appointments or they drop the ball. They don't follow up. They don't, all that stuff gets ignored, right?
yeah,
And all of a
yeah.
sudden you have clients that are mad, right?
Mhm.
And
Oh,
they're putting bad reviews or they're
don't
not
know
telling their friends.
anything about this. This is
Nothing.
foreign to me. This is incredibly foreign to me, Dina. I
Yeah.
don't know what you're talking about.
Entrepreneur I've been
Says the sales guy who runs a roofing company.
right? Right. Yeah, it is it's a thing, with entrepreneurship, there's a lot of unfun things about running a business, and
Mhm,
that is the power admin systems, sales systems, onboarding systems, follow-up systems,
mhm,
because it becomes the muscle memory of your business and
mhm,
it doesn't land on you. That's one benefit. Two, once you have a system for something, you can delegate it. You don't
mm,
have a system and the thing lives in your head, it's very hard to delegate to something
mhm,
to someone, right?
mhm,
So we wanna write down, here's our calendar, how we manage our calendar. This is how we book a client. This is how we onboard a client or offboard a client, right? There's so many nuancy things that someone, a VA, virtual assistant, or an assistant can do.
mhm,
You should not be doing. If you are the business owner, the number one lane you need to live in is RGA, revenue generating activities. The
mhm,
second lane is vision and values, making sure that your business is rooted in that greatness and that
mm,
purpose, vision, values, and that becomes you in your leadership and it becomes in your culture and your people. If you don't get that lane right, your culture
uh-huh,
is gonna be a mess, your people are gonna be a mess, there's not gonna be direction, you're gonna get derailed, and then you're gonna be exhausted, untreated
right,
overwhelm becomes burnout, and
right.
burnout is a real thing for entrepreneurship. So
Oh, yes.
systems are a thing that, that's one of my, again, I didn't used to call that a gift. It is a total gift, that I have owned, and, it's probably the number one thing that most people come for me and just say, "Oh my gosh, my admin is just it's a
A
mess,"
mess. Right.
or my sales are a mess.
Mhm,
So I worked with a $30 million company who didn't have a sales system. I
mhm,
want you to get if you are sitting there and you have a $50,000 or $100,000 business and you think everybody above 1,000,000 has everything figured out, I have been doing this 22 years.
they
Probably
don't.
60% of my clients are 1,000,000 to 100,000,000. They do not have everything figured out. They have just as many pain points and fires as you do. They're just bigger.
Right,
Right?
right.
But I've seen a few, bigger companies, 20, 30 million. They're winging their sales. They do not have a sales system.
Wow.
So
And
I think we can get in our head of like, oh my gosh, I suck. I'm so
uh
bad at this. I should close this business. No, you just figure it out. You figure out the system or the person you need to hire. We all have to figure it out and put God right in the middle and pray on your company, for your clients, for your future clients, and for yourself every day.
I think that, going back to structured time with God and a system in place for God, I think that's where a lot of people in burnout, I think that's one of the first things to go. Do you do you see that a pattern there of
Yeah.
when okay.
Yeah.
And what um yeah, speak to that for a minute.
Yeah. So, it's funny that you asked that because, I was at an event on Monday night and we were talking about that, how, as a business owner, you're trying to grow your business, especially if you have employees, you have the pressure of payroll, you're trying to keep the sales coming in, keep everybody happy, build culture. Oh yeah, and you're married, keep married. Oh yeah, you're a dad
Right?
or you're a mom.
Uh,
Oh,
mhm,
connect with your kids, right? And what often goes is collectively, what I call it is your CEO self-care. So it's 4 tanks. If you wanna imagine your back having, those tanks that, the air tanks when you go scuba diving, but 4 of those. You have the emotional tank, mental tank, physical tank, and spiritual tank.
mhm,
Those tanks get used and drained every day.
mhm,
It's up to us to refuel them
mhm,
on the daily. So you might have a really hard emotional day and that tank is all the way down.
mhm,
How are you gonna refill and refuel that emotional tank? You gotta know that. You can't just wing your CEO self-care. I'm
mhm.
telling you, it will put you in the grave, death, it will bring disease, or it will bring divorce.
No, a
You
stroke.
or stroke. I am the first to admit I had none of it,
Right,
right?
right.
So, actually, if you put in the notes, in the show notes, amazinggreatness.com, there is a free
Mhm.
CEO self-care template there you can download and create your own CEO self-care.
Oh,
This is how
nice.
much the number one takeaway I hope, I mean, hopefully there's more takeaways
Sure,
than
sure,
this,
but if you
but
miss
this
everything
is
else.
major because most entrepreneurs, like I did, they're putting themselves in the grave and they don't even know it
Mhm,
by not recognizing the 4 tanks on their back. You've got to refuel your spiritual self,
right,
emotional self, mental self, and physical
mhm.
self, at least on the weekly, if not on the daily.
Right,
Let's
right.
start it with the weekly first,
Well, let's
and
just
then
let's wait. Let's swim for the slow pitch right
yeah,
now.
yeah, and then we'll build daily, right?
We get a
But
couple monthly guys out there.
yeah. Yeah. That's
So,
okay. You know what? Listen, start where you are.
yeah,
If you
swim
are
for the
totally
slow pitch.
broken spiritually, start monthly and then build to weekly and then build to
Mhm,
daily, right?
right,
Don't shame your behavior. We got to
right.
love ourselves in the transformation, in the new habits that we create. And that's why I give that template is tell yourself today, I'm going to stop playing a smallness game in my CEO self care. And I'm going to start really playing a greatness game and being
Mhm,
intentional and
mhm,
responsible
mhm.
around these 4 tanks. They matter.
I
It's a really big part of being a great CEO.
right. I think you touched on something there, and having grace for yourself. Uh, and I think in the dog eat dog world, right? In the keeping up with the Joneses, I think that we get a sense of we're a lot of type A people and
Yeah.
perfectionists and whatnot, and I think we miss grace, right? I remember
Right.
being at a talking with a psychologist, and they said, Paul would open a lot of his letters and say, "Grace to you." And he said, sometimes we need to open letters to ourselves and say, "Hey,
Yes.
grace to you." Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because, baby in bathwater, right? The world right now is sometimes offering themselves a little too much grace and
Yeah.
like, well, be who you are and
Yeah.
just be yourself. Well, no, no, be Jesus, but have grace for yourself as you try to be like Jesus, Um, so, kind of navigating the nuances there of, yes, I mean, there is, like you say, you've got to do CEO self-care, but
Yeah.
you know what? If you miss it, don't don't beat the snot out of yourself because you're yeah. So no, I get that. You there was something else that I wanted to go back to that you had said. Um, that was oh no, that was it. I took care of that. So so you're consulting and that's kind of your main squeeze right now. You are kind of directing this 501(c)(3), and are you is this Bible study kind of an ongoing thing where you put out a new one every little bit, or is it like, nope, this is what it is, go ahead with it?
So it will be a new so the each Bible study is on one book of the Bible. So Acts, John, Luke,
Mhm.
Romans.
Okay.
Yeah. So we release one per month. So the first one we'll release is Acts, actually,
Mhm.
which is the book that really inspired that it like I said, the seed was there, but that book is the thing that I just got so moved and inspired by that book that I
Wait a minute
said,
now. Wait a minute. Y why did you lead with this? Wait a minute. You got inspired by the Book of Acts, inspired for the Bible study by the Book of
yeah,
Acts? Okay, alright,
yeah.
so, I don't know what your time frame looks like. I know we had a rough start here with our new software, but, if you got some time, yeah, can you share that
But
with us?
I just feel like the book of Acts, if you have not read that book, it's, a lot of people don't actually read a book end to end. We read a passage, we read a page, but my encouragement, and which is why this Bible study is a book at a time. So, the book of Acts inspired me because it just is the level of faith that they had to have. I mean, it's a couple guys after
Uh-huh,
Jesus
mhm,
died. I mean, it really illuminates the power of one. One
mhm,
person that said, "I'm going out. I'm
mhm,
I'm spreading the news," right?
mhm,
And it wasn't hundreds of people. It was a couple people. And
mhm,
we are those couple people.
mhm,
Right? So
mhm,
you doing a living room club with 8 people, reading the book of Acts, getting
mhm,
together every other week will change your life. And because we become disciples, and
mhm,
that there's just no other book in the Bible to me that illuminates the power of one person's
mm,
faith and intention
right,
of spreading the news. And to me, that's what this Bible study is. It's, "Hey, I'm doing a living room club out to 5 or 8 coworkers or friends. Hey, you
mhm,
guys wanna do the book of Acts with me?" And they do it together. And I call it a living room circle or small group, right? And there's such a power of doing it together and doing one book end to end and unpacking it and discussing
mhm,
it along the way.
mhm,
So in Happy Hour with Jesus, it's not curriculum. They're not reading writing from me or curriculum from me. They are
mhm,
buying the structure of how to do their group and
mhm,
how discussion points. But the point of it is they are reading the Bible. They are connecting with the Word together. They're reading it 8 minutes a day on their own, and then they're
mhm,
coming together for their living room group to discuss and unpack it.
mm,
So it just there was a point 2 years ago when I read the book of Acts where God was already saying, "Okay, we're moving. I am moving you in this assignment."
mhm,
And when I read the book of Acts, it just cemented that. I just went,
Mm,
"Okay, it's, when he calls us, sometimes we don't feel equipped." Like,
mm,
"Well, why are you calling me? I can't write a Bible study. I
mhm,
can't write"
mm.
"What?"
But
And he
I'm slow of tongue,
that
Moses says, right?
right. I'm not a pastor. I'm not this. I'm not that. He goes, "Yeah, I get it. What you are, you have the right gifts, the right skills, community building, I mean, I have everything to do this." And
Mhm,
he said, "And I'm laying it on you because this is your assignment." And
mhm,
it's one little he's assigning things to everyone all the time.
mhm.
It just matters if we're saying yes. I finally
Yeah.
said, "Yes."
Yes, okay.
And I'm gonna
Mhm,
trust he knows better than me because 'cause I'm
mhm.
sitting there, what I call arguing for my smallness. I'm like, "I'm not this, and I'm not
Right,
that, and I'm not
right,
this,
right.
and I'm not that." And he's
Arguing
like,
for my smallness. I like that.
"Yeah." He's like, "Enough. I'm telling you, you're the right person to do this. What you're doing is reconnecting people to the word." Because I got it in my head like, "Oh," because I am a speaker. I do write books. I do write curriculum, but I was like, "I'm not writing Bible curriculum." And he's like, "No, no, just
Huh,
connect them with my word."
right.
That was
R
the key.
right.
So, trust when God, calls you, and
Calls you
trust
to
that
do
he
something.
will lead you in that. Once I got that, I was like, "I can do that. I
Yeah.
can be the advocate to have people
Right.
reconnect with your word." Amen.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So,
God never calls the wrong person.
no, no.
God never calls the wrong person. So if God's calling you, he didn't screw up. He's not gonna, get disappointed and fire you the next day. He picked the right person.
Right, right.
Well, Dina,
Mm,
I'm just so thankful. Thankful we got this software to work here, and excited to see what this does for some folks. And so, um, we'll get. You have a link to you have a website for your coaching, right?
yep.
Okay, so we'll get.
DenaPatton.com.
Okay, DenaPatton.com. We'll get, and I think you sent me a media kit there,
Okay.
so I'll get all that stuff. But if Forrest needs anything else, I'll reach out to you and we'll get that put on the description for all of you that are just digging these resources and want to dig into that. And we thank you for listening to a Christian business podcast brought to you by Redeemed Roofing and Exteriors. And we would, there's a lot of people blessed by the podcast. You hear from people all the time, man. I love the podcast. It's a blessing to me and my business. It's a blessed. There are people that are being blessed just from a faith standpoint outside of business because of the stories of these people. So we would love for you to share it on your social media platforms. We would love for if you leave reviews that ranks us up. So we're just so appreciative of you people, you who are listening. And Dina, we are so thankful you carved out some time from your busy schedule to visit and talk with me today. And if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to us or reach out to Dina. And we're so thankful. So thank you very much, Dina.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Amazing conversation, and, I hope to do it again soon.